Welcome, everyone, to Life Beyond 6 Feet. I'm Damien from RKB Paranormal, and this week I have the all-female team, Ghost of the Coast Paranormal. Ladies, welcome to Life Beyond 6 Feet.
Thank you for having us.
All right, so I'm just going to go kind of down the line, and each one of you just kind of tell your role on the team. So, Christy, we'll start with you. What's your position on the team?
Investigator and gopher and do whatever. We kind of all pitch in and do whatever we have to do. But I saw her post 23 minutes after she put it on Facebook asking if anyone wanted to join a paranormal team. And I said, I will. And I've loved every minute of it. I've always been fascinated with the paranormal. Saw my great grandfather when I was 13 after he passed away.
Oh, wow.
And think I have seen other things, but not really sure. But I am honing some skills that I now realize I had. But I've loved every minute of it. She's making my dream come true.
That's awesome. And you're talking about Christy. So, Christy, what's your role on the team? That was Christy.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Aaron, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So I am the founder of Ghost of the Coast Paranormal, and it's always been a part of my bucket list to participate in paranormal investigations. And so literally one night I was laying in bed and I said, you know what, I'm going to do this. And came up with the name right there, put it out on Facebook, and the rest is history.
Well, that's awesome. That's definitely a good way to meet people with common interest. So, Chris, what about you?
Well, I am also an investigator on the team. I'm also a minister with Universal Life Church. So I make sure everybody is protected when we're out there, especially when we're out, but especially when we're leaving a location. I make sure that everyone is saged. I say a little prayer and make sure that nothing attaches to us or follows us out of any location. I've seen spirits since I was a little girl. I actually host a Ghost in History tour out in Rolls Inlet, South Carolina area. And I'm an author of 3 different books regarding the local lore and legends of the South Strand area.
Oh, wow. Well, that's pretty awesome. So Deborah, what about you? What's your role on the team?
I'm an investigator and a gopher and a do this and a do that goer.
Now, when did you kind of get interested in the paranormal?
I've always known something was just a little different or special with me since I was a child. But my first real experience, I was 11 years old when my great-grandfather had passed away, and came and visited me one night when I was sleeping in the bed he died in.
Oh, wow.
Just had a seat there at the foot of the bed, and I could see where he was sitting, but I couldn't see him.
Oh, goodness.
But I later learned that my talents are family owned.
Right.
They're passed from generation to generation. And as much digging as I could do, I am the 5th generation.
Oh, wow.
Being a sensitive.
That's pretty amazing. And so, last but not least, I'm probably going to mess your name up. Linnea. There we go. So what's your role in the team?
So I believe I'm the actual first official member on the team outside of Erin, and I'm kind of her left hand. I'm also Chris's counterpart. She kind of closes us out at the end of the night, and I kind of start us off. I'm a Reiki master. So before our investigations, I actually do a little Reiki to kind of open third eye on everybody and just kind of make sure that we have the best possible experience, and also do a little protection over us prior to going in. I've had some experiences growing up, and I have the family who didn't tell me there was no such thing as ghosts. We had family houses that were haunted and, just different things going on. So it was actually encouraged in my family.
Well, that's awesome. That's unlike most people that I've talked to on this show. Most people come from an ultra religious home and they're just not allowed to talk about this kind of stuff. So you kind of had the opposite start. So Aaron, how did you kind of come up with the name Ghost of the Coast Paranormal? Where did that stem from?
Well, I mean, we're right on the coast. We're in Myrtle Beach. So, and there's so much here in Conway specifically, which is about maybe 20 minutes from Myrtle Beach. There's a ton of history, dating back to the 1700s.
Oh, wow.
And I was literally just playing around with a name. I was like, okay, what can be a good name? And I'm literally just playing around with it, and then it clicked. Goes to the Coast Paranormal, and I was like, I repeated it maybe 5 times, and then I was like, oh yeah, no, this is good. This sticks. It rolls, and so that's really where it came from. There's just based off the history of the area and being the location,
Right.
being right at the beach.
And like I was telling you guys before we started recording, that's what caught my attention was the name, and I was like, "That's a unique name, and it stands out." So it's definitely different. So you said you guys are a fairly new team, only about 4 or 5 months old. So what was your very first official investigation once you got your team put together?
We actually did our very first official investigation. First time we got together. Most of us anyway, was we had actually gone down. The first time we met was like a week after everybody joined, and we actually went down to Chris's tour and took her tour and did a mini investigation there. We pulled out our voice recorders, had cameras, we were taking pictures and stuff like that. Got a couple of neat things while we were down there, but I think our first official investigation was at a property that is on the Gullah Trail, right? Yeah. And that was our first investigation as a team, and it was an overnight investigation. And I mean, we got a couple of quite a few really good pieces there. But then we went right after that. We had another private residence location. So I think those were our first two official investigations as a team.
All right. So in these 5 months, how many investigations would you say you've got under the wraps so far?
Well, we've since day one, really. Not to toot our horns or anything, but we've been booked out just about every weekend.
Oh wow!
Since November 9th. Yeah.
Now, was that just with like personal residences, or do you guys do like commercial properties too?
We've actually done. I think with any investigation team, you go in and you're like, oh, we can do private residences. You don't really think about businesses, but we've been picking up a lot of businesses, a lot of historical buildings. Some municipalities have contacted us, and so I mean, it's taken that turn from private residence to more of commercial. Yeah.
Okay. So before this team actually formed, did any of you 5 ladies actually investigate before any of this?
Yes, I have.
So you're the only one that investigated beforehand. So everybody else is kind of a rookie. So
yeah, and I've only done growing up. Like I said, I've always been into the paranormal. So growing up, I was, I would have the apps on my phone and I'd pull them out and be like, oh, is there anybody here? Not really thinking anything of it. And then as I got older and got more into it, I got more into the respect side of things. And so I had only done one like true investigation where you have all the equipment and stuff like that,
right.
Prior to forming this team. And so that was the only one that I had. And so it just yeah, and we've been busy ever since day one.
All right. So to the other 4 of you that hadn't done this before, we'll just kind of go down the line. How did your first investigation go? Like how was your experience for that first investigation?
Oh, I loved it. I've loved every investigation. They pick on me because I get excited. I get extremely excited over everything. My very first orb I got was in Nichols, South Carolina, at the town hall / library / courthouse, whatever. I got my first orb and I squealed because I saw it in real time on my phone. I was recording, just taking some pictures, little recordings, and I squealed. And they're like, "What's wrong? What's wrong? What is it?" And I'm like, "Look!" So I just get excited over everything. But I scare easily. They try to scare me.
But, well, that's me too. I'm the easiest the easiest to scare on my team too. So I'm right there with you. So
Yeah, it's fun.
that's good stuff. So Chris, what about you? How'd your first time go?
The first time was interesting because I knew the location. So
Okay.
the first time when we got all together is a location I knew very well. And so I already knew some of the things that were going on there. So when they all came to the area, I already knew a lot of the history of what was to go on. So for me to see them using equipment, I'm very old fashioned. I go with candles. When I was younger, I used Ouija boards, tarot cards, all that kind of thing. But when they came in with all the equipment, that's what I was like, wow, these ladies really know their stuff, because they are equipment, and they were teaching me, and they were still teaching me about the different equipment. So it was very interesting because I knew what was going to happen, hopefully, because I knew the location, and I wanted to see what they would pick up. And some of the things they picked up, I was very impressed with what they got, especially
wow.
for the first time, and all of us working together. And it was an overnight. And so I was very impressed by what happened that night.
That's awesome. It's always good when you have a first good investigation. So
Well,
Deborah,
and
sorry.
sorry, Christy actually got shushed that night.
Yes,
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, it was crazy. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. Everybody had gone to bed, and we had we brought snacks. Of course, we have to make snacks.
Turn it.
Snacks. So we were sitting there, and everybody had been talking or whatever. Everybody split up to bed, and Erin was in a bedroom where she could see the kitchen. And I decided I wanted to make a peanut butter sandwich. So I went into the kitchen, and I was making the sandwich. Well, I decided, instead of waiting till the next morning, I could pack up my little bag for the next morning. So I was putting the bread in and the peanut butter. Well, I got the chip bag, and I crumpled it up, and I put it in the bag. And about that time, I heard, shh. And I stopped, and I turned, and I peeked around both of the corners. She sees me.
I saw her, and she's just looking. I go, what the hell are you doing?
I said, I got shush. And I caught it.
well, that's awesome.
On a recorder.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So Deborah, how did it go for you for the first time out?
Oh man, I was like a kid. Just the little cat balls amazed me. And just watching them interact with us, something that you can right then and there see.
Mm-hmm.
It was awesome. And the motion lights, see them interact with the motion lights and cut them off and on.
Right. Yeah, I'm extremely amazed by the little cat toys. That's one of my favorite pieces. They're cheap for one, and just to see them go off when nobody's moving,
right,
and going off when you ask them to. That's just amazing to me.
Well, it was like we were at the cemetery one night, and I had put one on each grave of a child, and we could see them like they were interacting with each other. They would blink, and then the next one would blink, and so forth. And it was cool to be able to watch it.
They are. It is pretty neat. So. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say no other location within that cemetery the motion lights. Just those three. And
We can't hear you, girls.
Nope.
Did we go somewhere? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay. Yeah, no, those cat balls were the only two that were going off. Nowhere else in that cemetery.
That's crazy. So, last but not least, I'm gonna keep messing your name up.
Linnea.
Linnea. That's what I wanted to say, but I was like, I'm afraid I'm gonna mess it up. Linnea. So, how did your first investigation go?
So I am actually going to back up a little bit further and not talk about the first investigation they're talking to, but they did say the cemetery. So when we initially got together, before we jumped into an actual investigation, we were doing trainings in cemeteries just, to get our bearings and, become a little more familiar with each other and how to operate as a team. So I'm going to go back to that because that's really what I think of as our first investigation, even though it was more of a training.
Right.
But I mean, that was amazing. It was finding people who you were just kind of realizing you didn't know who have the same interest and meshing so well and having each other's backs. And it can be a scary situation when you're in the woods and something, kind of scary is happening and cat balls are going off for the first time in your life. So it was really just kind of a very impressive experience, meeting these women and having each other's backs and the learning to do it all together. And again, I agree with you. The cat balls, like Christy and I, always have very good luck with cat balls together. And that night we must have had a conversation for about 40 minutes with a cat ball. So that was kind of cool. Mag lights are actually becoming my new favorite thing. Me and Christine do well with the mag lights.
Right. Yeah, those are pretty crazy too when they'll turn off and on command. That's pretty intense. So you say you do commercial, you do residential. Do you do any of these pay to play type places?
We have not yet, but I think our goal probably by next spring or summer, maybe even next fall. We have a 5-year plan. But we want to do the overnight at the USS North Carolina.
Yes, that's on my bucket list too.
Yeah, and that's what, an hour from here.
Nice.
We have talked about, although it was very briefly, but going to the Old South Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
I think that one would be a cool. There's so many places that we want to go. Well, me personally, that I want to go. That's on my paranormal bucket list. So I got to hit the lottery first.
Right. It does get expensive, and plus when you're traveling and stuff like that. But with it being 5, 6 of you gals, that does kind of help cut the cost down for everybody. I will say if you guys do come to Tennessee, my recommendation for a place would be the historic Scott County Jail in Huntsville, Tennessee. My team's been there twice. Been one of the most active location we've been to date. We actually captured a picture being flung off the wall.
Oh, wow!
Scared the teetotal shit out of us. But it was absolutely amazing, and it's been the most active place we've been to. So that would be one I would definitely recommend to you guys. Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary is another good one in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Well, Damien, I have to tell you, I think we're going to have to actually share this with you because you should hear it.
Uh-huh.
One of the things that's a little different about us, we don't do all these locations that have been done. A lot of the things we're doing are brand new, like the Marion Opera House and South Carolina Tobacco Museum, things that have not been explored.
Right.
But the things that we're getting, Christy just got a really unique EVP at the Conway Courthouse. Girls, we should definitely send that to him so he can check that out.
Yeah, I can send that to you. Yeah, that one was the coolest thing. But yeah, a lot of these places, we're the first teams to ever be allowed to go in. And, especially, being in the South, we're in the Bible Belt. And a lot of people, the talk of paranormal is very, very taboo still in the South. And, and our goal as a team is to answer questions, gain knowledge, tell stories of the past, but also break down that barrier and let people know it's okay to talk about this stuff. It's okay to experience these things. And we've had the way people have responded to us has been very, very positive and very open, and so that's been very nice.
Right.
Can't hear you, Christy.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah, it was AT&T. We've had no negative feedback whatsoever, no pushback. I mean, we've been welcomed so far. It's great.
That's awesome. That's kind of what I ran into in my hometown. A lot of the businesses in the downtown area where I grew up, people know the places are haunted, but nobody wants to talk about it. And you try to bring it up, they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. we've been able to investigate 3 of the businesses down there. They were open to it and they were like, yeah, come on in. So we're kind of hoping we can kind of be like, hey, these guys let us in. Why don't you let us in? So it's something we've been working on now for about 3 years, trying to get into some of these places, and maybe one day. So, but
Yeah, we've been everything that we've done has been a first, but it's also been a lot of word of mouth as well. So, so we're able to kind of get into places that where nobody's ever done, and our goal is to long-term 5-year plan is to be able to build relationships and partnerships with local municipalities and get things going for paranormal tourism, all of that.
right. And it's definitely a good way to go whenever you can get businesses that kind of open up and allow you to do it. That could be, how you said Chris does the tours and stuff. That could be something you guys could do on the side too, to kind of make a little extra profit for yourself and for the business as well. So that's
Why I started doing the tour was so that people can open up and talk about their own experiences,
mhm,
especially children. I get a lot of kids like to do my tour, and a lot of kids don't want to say anything because
right,
they're afraid somebody's going to make fun of them or tell them, what, that's not right. And so when I do my tours, it just opens up a dialogue,
right,
and then hopefully from there, it will open up to people wanting us to come and help them at their homes or at their businesses.
right. So now, when you guys get contacted to investigate a residence or a commercial building, how do you go about deciding if you want to investigate that place or not?
Well, right now, because we're so new, we're going to take uh, that investigation, just for experience, even
Mhm.
just to you know learn our equipment further. So as of right now, we're going to take that. Um, but I've always said, we don't deal with dark stuff. We
Right,
don't want to. That's not the purpose of what we're doing. While we understand that it's out there, we don't want to mess with it. So if there is a home that has had claims and they reach out to us and they've had claims of some darker stuff going on, we might say, well, unfortunately, we're not equipped to deal with that.
right,
So we would, either refer them to somebody else or because at this time, I mean, like we said, we understand that we're going to come up against stuff that's
mhm,
not the nicest, but we don't go seeking that out.
right,
So we will turn down an investigation if it does have some darkness around it. Um, but mainly right now, because we're so new and we're still learning, we will take just about anything that comes our way.
right. And the darkness type stuff. That's kind of the one of the main reasons my team doesn't do personal residences, because every message we've received from people about, hey, can you come check this out? It's stuff that's just like so out there, and I'm not saying that it's not happening, but like what they're telling me, I'm like, I was like, all I do is document. I don't know really how to handle stuff being thrown across the room or people being
Right.
attacked, stuff like that. I'm like, so you may want to contact this person or this church or somebody that's a little bit
Right.
more equipped to handle that. So
Okay.
so what is each one of yours favorite piece of equipment whenever you're doing an investigation?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
My favorite piece of equipment is probably, oh no, I have two. My video camera, I love actual recording, but my microcom, my new spirit box, signed by KD Stafford, is my new favorite piece of equipment.
He's a cool dude.
Love
I
it.
had him on the show last season. He's a pretty cool dude.
Really?
Yeah.
If he ever gets divorced, I'm stalking him. I'm telling you. I just love it. But no, we have other spirit boxes. She has an SB7. I have an SB11. But I will have to say it's a different kind of investigation. It's a different, it's just a totally different experience between the two. I really like the microphone.
All right.
My favorite, I typically am the one behind the live camera. So I like doing the lives. I like interacting with people. But I'm gonna have to say my favorite piece of equipment though would be the spirit box, because I love doing the Estes method.
Right.
I mean, that's probably my favorite thing to do is the Estes method.
It is pretty wild, especially when what's being asked is lining up with what you're responding to. So that's
100%. Yeah.
I love doing that too, and I have quite a few stories from our Estes methods over the last couple of years. So
Yes, we do.
So what's your favorite piece?
In the beginning, when I first got started, I used to do like divination, things like that, using a candle or the divining rods. That used to be my favorite. Now with all the great equipment they're bringing in, Erin got me into the Estes method, and that, as of right now, seems to be really probably the most exciting piece of equipment that I've ever seen or ever had a chance to do or use. But I'm still old-fashioned, and I still will go back to actually my divining rods or something like that too.
All right. So Deborah, what about you? What's your favorite piece?
Outside of my own, I love
Turn the camera.
outside of my own intuition, I love the Estes method, and Erin and Chris together are phenomenal. I sit in amazement every single time they do one together. It makes my little heart butterfly.
That's awesome. And what's your favorite piece?
So with all the stuff we have, I do kind of go a little old school too, and I actually do prefer my cell phone throughout the night because it's easy to either try to, do recording on the spot or digital recording on the spot, and it's what I found that I've gotten the most evidence with.
Right. That's awesome. And you keep saying you have some really cool experiences with the Estes method. I'm going to tell you one of our probably craziest experiences during the Estes method. It was just three of us this one night. We was at the Hotel Metropolitan in Paducah, Kentucky. I'm sitting in the middle of the hallway, and my wife and our other teammates are probably a good 10 feet behind me, and we're going through it. And at one point, I feel something kind of caress my left arm, and I call out. I was like, something's touching my arm. And probably 10 seconds after that, that same arm, it feels like somebody's poking me in the arm. Like they poked me 4 or 5 times. And I'm like, something's poking me in the arm. And like that whole side of my body got just like freezing cold. And probably about a minute and a half later, you can hear our one teammate, he says, are you Pop? And then I come out and say, well, I'm just trying. And then you hear my wife say, who's Pop? And then right at the camera, you hear somebody that's not there say, that's not my name. Wow. And that was captured on our video camera. And of course, my dumb ass forgot to turn the IR light on the camera. So I was so upset because I was like, man, what if we actually would have captured whatever was touching me on the arm? Because like I was right beside a room. So like something inside that room was touching me, and I was so disappointed that I didn't have the light on. But then when I heard the voice, I was like, well, that's way better. So that was pretty wild. And even it wasn't even really the Estes method itself that was amazing. It was the voice we captured during the Estes method that it was just wild. So what's one of your craziest Estes method stories?
So for me, there's a couple of them. So I also got touched when we went and did a city hall here in Conway, and and I had like a small handprint on my back, but yeah. And then the weirdest thing for me, we were at the South Carolina Tobacco Museum, and I was in the tobacco barn, and when I get into an Estes session, I put my whole self in there, and so my eyes are covered, my ears, I couldn't hear anything, but I'll typically, and I've noticed this through reviewing videos, I'll typically begin to feel stuff intuitively during these sessions. So if I feel something, I'll say something just walked, just so that they can mark it. But also like at the tobacco museum, I was doing the Estes and I felt something in the back, the far back corner. And I was like, and I kept looking over there at whoever was standing there. And then I think toward the end of that session, maybe 4 minutes or so, I was looking straight up into the rafters as spirit was coming through the spirit box. And when we got done, I think Linnea had asked me, what were you looking at? I was like, there was eyes everywhere. I could feel the eyes on me just looking down. And so that was probably the craziest. But as far as responses go, I probably the one from last weekend.
Oh my God.
So we went to an old morgue, a retired morgue.
Nice.
And we went last weekend, and I was doing an Estes session in the morgue, and I was standing up leaning against a table, and I got my rear pinched. and of course I yelled it out. I said, somebody just touched my butt. And through the spirit box comes a voice that says, oh, that's just Michael. And they said, that's just Michael, he's a horn dog. And then
Oh, wow.
and then afterwards, everybody, like all the spirits in that area were like, go away, Michael, go away, get out of here, go away. Like you could just hear them in the spirit box just telling him to go away.
That's pretty amazing. To have that happen and then that kind of response, that's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
So any other wild Estes stories anybody wants to talk about?
When we were in Marion at the Opera House, I was doing Estes and Chris was asking the questions, and I kept telling them from the word go almost. I kept saying something's touching, and I kept doing it. I said something's touching my neck or something's blowing on my neck, and it was about shoulder height. Felt like just something just blowing right there, and it kept doing it the whole time. Well, then later we got the name Timothy. Timmy, he liked Timmy. When we went upstairs into the actual opera house, into the auditorium, we got him again. And Aaron and I actually had motion lights, cat balls going off, spirit box going on. The lights were going off in response to our questions. We were communicating with this child. And I said, it was like child height, what was blowing on me up downstairs. That was the weirdest feeling in this world, though. Just feeling like somebody was blowing on your neck. I mean, I could feel cold air. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. And that reminds me of another Estes session. We was at an old post office, and I have no clue why they had vaults in this post office. They had two huge ass vaults in this post office, and I was locked inside of one of them. And the only thing in this vault was a big safe behind me. And it kept feeling like there was somebody behind me. And at one point, my neck started to burn. I was like, all right, I'm done. I got to get out of here. And when they looked at my neck, there were 3 scratch marks going down the back of my neck. And I'm like, okay. We videoed this whole thing, and I never once touched my neck. So I knew it wasn't me. And what was crazy about it is during our walkthrough that night, 2 of the other investigators got scratches on their necks.
Oh, wow.
And the people who kind of oversaw the investigations, they were like, oh, that's never happened here before. And I'm like, you mean to tell me 3 of us come out of this place with scratches and you say it's never happened before, not one time? I was like, one time I can kind of say, okay, it's a coincidence, but 3 of us get scratched. And it was just we felt like they were hiding stuff from us
Yeah.
because during the walkthrough, when the guy was talking, his wife would kind of look at him and kind of shake her head like, "No, don't tell him that," or "No, you can't talk about that."
Yeah, yeah.
So we we decided to go ahead and go through with it, but with all that stuff happened, it was wild. So
Can't hear you, Christy.
Did you
that?
catch other things that night in addition to the scratches?
Oh gosh, what else happened? Well, the scratches happened. Gosh, that was like 2.5 years ago. Let's see.
But doesn't that make you feel differently about the location when you feel like you've been misled?
A little bit. But that town in general, where that post office that whole little town is kind of odd. So I think it's the town in general. Um, but I know later on, actually earlier in the night, when another team member was doing an SS method in the other vault, we thought he was trying to get out. We thought he was kicking the door trying to get out because we was hearing banging on our side. And so we opened the door and like, "Hey, what's going on?" He's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Are you not kicking the door?" He's like, "I haven't moved." And the video, he never moves. But we're hearing this banging on our side like he's trying to get out. And it was an interesting place, and we were seeing like these weird crawling shadows in the basement, and it was just a weird place.
Yeah.
All right, so again, I'm going to go to each one of you. I'm going to start with Linnea. I probably screwed that up again.
No, you got it. You got
You
it.
got it right.
Yeah, all right, all right. So what's probably been the one occurrence that's probably spooked you the most during an investigation?
Ooh. I'm gonna have to go with just an overall vibe of a building. We did again the South Carolina Tobacco Factory.
Mhm.
Is that what it is? Tobacco Museum, sorry. And the entire vibe there that night, and there was something that occurred there that we've never had before. And it was very creepy. We were in this back warehouse room. Is that what you would call it, Erin?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden there was an overwhelming stench of cat urine that the entire team was able to smell. And I mean, you know, if you know that smell, it's not something that goes away easily. And it kind of followed us for a little bit and went away. But that entire night, like you just kind of felt like it was a very I don't know, how would you say it felt like the one spirit that was kind of very present was very antagonistic.
Yes.
He got under Erin's skin a little bit. Erin needed a breather and a timeout. And it's probably the first location that I didn't want to be by myself. You know what I mean?
wow.
Normally I'm okay, fine, running off, you know, doing whatever. But then I was kind of like, hey, wait, where are you? Where are you, girls? Don't leave me.
Oh wow, that's just to get a whole vibe of the entire building. That's pretty intense.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, Deborah, what about you? What's been the thing that's probably spooked you the most during an investigation?
Last weekend I had something attached to me.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that was nerve wracking, stomach turning. Yeah, it got the back of my left ankle, and I couldn't walk. I couldn't put my foot down without a searing pain just shooting through it. But as soon as we got outside, it started easing down a little bit. And when I got saged, I was fine. It was like nothing ever happened. But that was unsettling.
I bet that something similar to that happened to my wife during her very first investigation. She got affected by something and she ended up having like a sharp pain in her stomach, and she had to go outside and be saged and everything before, and it took her probably a good couple of hours before she started feeling herself again.
Yeah.
So that's pretty wild. So Chris, what about you?
Gotta say, Tobacco Museum. We were on that back room. I don't know what was going on in there because no one else really had experienced anything else, and we were experiencing a lot of things. But the back room, I I had been doing Estes. And when I went to get up, and there were a majority of us in this huge back warehouse room, I got touched right back here, like in my kidney area, really severe. And it wasn't just me. There had been a couple others that got touched, and it was at the same time.
Oh, wow.
Same spot at the same time. And I mean, I almost went down because the pain it threw me off guard. And I think to myself, okay, this isn't one of those pains that I'm used to at my age. You know, it ain't one of those.
Right.
It was a severe pain, and it nearly took me out. And we had to leave the room, and then we had to call upon Linnea, and Linnea is the Reiki master, and I had to call upon her to help me, get through that, because it was just so severe and so sudden. And that scared me, because when I go into a place, before I go, I always meditate. And I always say, you cannot touch me. You do not have permission. And when that happened, I thought, whoops, maybe I didn't pray hard enough. I don't know.
Now, what is the history behind this tobacco museum? Because it seems like that's been like your guys' most active place you've been to, just from what you've been telling me. Like, what's kind of the history of this place?
Yeah, so it's actually an old train depot. So the town that it's in is in Mullins, South Carolina, and it's a beautiful museum. If you're ever down this way, definitely go check it out. But it's in an old train depot, and Mullins, South Carolina is South Carolina capital, or the Golden Leaf. Yeah, the Golden Leaf capital of South Carolina. And so a huge tobacco industry, dating back, plantation times. So this museum has tons of artifacts, and it's all about tobacco, from the growth to harvesting. Different tools are in there. There's a shovel in there from like the 1700s.
Oh, wow.
So and then on top of that, it was a train depot. It was used as a train depot back in the day. So
not to mention that the land in general in South Carolina has such historical.
I was going to say there could be many components as kind of combining there to make it as active as it is. So, all right. So, Erin, what's been your probably spookiest moment?
So a tobacco museum as well. As Linnea said, I had something affect my emotions, but no. What I will tell you is we typically investigate, like, I don't think I've ever seen anybody investigate the way we do. So going into locations, usually the week leading up to an investigation, we all do some sort of meditation, automatic writing, and we also don't know the history until after we go to a location. We go in completely blind. And so we don't know the history, we don't know any claims until after we do our walkthrough. And so we don't share our meditations or automatic writings before. And so what I kept getting, and then later on turned out a lot of us kept getting it, there was the main spirit there is a very, very nasty man who only you think women are only good for one thing, and here we are, a team of women coming in to his space. So for me, I learned that night that I'm much more empathic than I realized, because I felt, and I think it was after the tobacco barn, it was when it started affecting me, but I felt every bit of rage and just hatred that this guy was projecting. And the weirdest part is, in my head, I was like, don't let him get to you. Just step outside. You know what to do. Just step outside, remove yourself. But my body, because I felt so much rage and anger, I wanted to throw hands with this guy. Like, I wanted to go into the back room where he was hiding and beat his ass. Like, I was just ready to throw hands. But, and it went off, because, like I said, in my head, I was like, just go outside. Just go outside. Don't let him get to you. And we don't provoke. We do not provoke. But his emotions were coming through so strong that some of the things that I was saying could be taken as provoking. And so, and in my head, I was like, don't provoke. You know better. Don't do this. Just go outside. But my body was like, I'm going to beat this guy's ass and I'm going to just go to town on him. Finally, I got outside and was saged and had some Reiki and I was good. But before that, I had stepped outside and I was pacing.
That's crazy. That's crazy. So, Christy, is it the same place?
Well, I haven't experienced there yet. That was the only place that I have ever been affected physically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I wasn't feeling well before I got there. I have multiple sclerosis and rheumatoid arthritis and several other things. But anyway, sometimes with my MS, if I don't feel good, I just don't have a lot of energy.
Right.
So I wasn't feeling quite right before I got there. So I'd taken a nap. I felt better. When I got there, I hadn't been there 5 minutes.
No.
And I had a flare up with my MS. And it was just like snapping your fingers. And Linnea and Chris worked on me. And I finally, after they did their thing, I didn't have any energy at all then. I went and slept in my car for an hour and a half.
Wow.
And and they saged me before I came back in. And the minute I stepped in the door, I said out loud, you do not have permission to touch me. You cannot bother me. You know, all that good thing. And I felt fine the rest of the night. But it didn't. Yeah, I was the only one that felt fine the rest of the night. But that didn't scare me because I have MS and I know how that feels. And I know what to do now. If I'm not feeling well, I know not to put myself in that situation. Last weekend is the most scared I have been. We were leaving the upstairs where a doctor's office used to be, and it's down some you have to go down some rickety steps to get out. As we were gathering up our things at the end of the night, we were walking down from upstairs. Chris and I kept hearing this tapping noise, and I did not catch it on my video camera or my tape recorder, but we heard it. And I think we're the only ones that heard it. And we heard it on 2 different occasions. Well, as we were leaving, we were walking away and we heard the tapping and we turned around and went back. And we couldn't figure out what it was. So anyway, we were heading all out for the night. She goes down first and I was the last one to come down. Well, of course, it's pitch black behind me. So that makes you feel weird anyway. But I got halfway down the stairs and I said, y'all, there's something behind me. There's something. And I could literally feel, and oh God, the hair standing up on the back of my neck talking about it. I could feel this thing just like rushing right down the stairs behind me. And it was standing right behind me the whole way out the door. And they were like snapping pictures and looking and shining their flashlights. That's the most scared I have been because I could literally feel him breathing down my neck, like, get out of here. And finally I turned around and looked up. I'm like, why didn't you play with us earlier? You know? Why you start now?
Right. Yeah, that's pretty intense too.
Me. And I guess too, because it's dark and you can't see and you're like, you don't know what it is. That was frightening.
I bet. Now, Erin, you mentioned that, you know, you've been affected emotionally. That's happened to me on 2 separate occasions. The first time I went from being extremely angry to within about 45 seconds, like I was literally crying in tears. Wow. Had no clue why until I went back and listened to the audio. It's actually our first unofficial investigation at Brushy Mountain. It seemed that we were interacting with an African-American male who'd been in prison for something he never done. So I was feeling his emotions of being, you know, pissed off for being wrongfully accused till feeling his emotions to being sad and depressed for spending his life there for something he never done. And the most recent was just here a couple of months ago. It was at another jail doing the S's method session. And it goes dead quiet. Like nothing's coming through. And I start shaking my leg, like I can't control my leg from shaking. And the next thing I know, I'm crying. Oh, wow. And my wife's like, what, pulls my headphones on. She's like, what's going on? I was like, I don't know. And my co-founder had to literally more or less just pick me up and pull me out of the cell because I didn't want to leave. But I was like, you got to get me out of here, but I don't want to leave. It was so crazy.
That was like that was like me at the Tobacco Museum. All I wanted to just keep doing is go into the back room. I stood in the doorway for like, yeah, and I stood in the doorway, and I just wanted, like I said, just wanted to throw hands with this guy at this point. And like I was gonna do everything I could to like get back there, and but finally, and it was that was a good investigation for us as a team, because we had so much activity that night, so much going on physically, emotionally, with our spirit box, with all of our equipment. We could not keep a charge on a camera, for more than 10 minutes.
Mm.
But that was a good investigation for us, because it really, it taught us so much. And now like we know, if we can kind of read each other now.
Yeah.
And if we can see somebody starting to get affected, we know, all right, let's go outside. Like with Deborah last weekend, when whoever grabbed onto her leg, we were like, all right, I got Sage in the car, because we had split up into 2 teams at this point. So me and Deborah were on a team. And so I was like, I got Sage in my bag. Let's sage you. Let's get outside. And so it really taught us to be mindful of your team, and learn how to read your team. So, because that's, safety is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
Both spiritual safety and physical safety.
Right.
Really cool thing that we caught last weekend at in Lake City. Chris and I were doing an Estes session, and I was asking her the questions, and she kept talking about a young boy in his 20s, and it finally came out that he was a soldier. He had died, and she kept saying general. She kept saying the word general. Well, after it was all over, we didn't realize the connection. After it was all over, she and one of our guest investigators who was with us that night, Craig, they went upstairs. There's a second floor in the morgue. Well, they got to poking around, and they found some old books. They found a book that listed all of the soldiers from South Carolina in World War II.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. So I was like, that is super cool. And I was like, bring it down, let's look at it. And she was like, no. She's like, I ain't touching it. They were poking at it with a golf club.
That's wild.
But I just thought that was really cool that we caught that.
Right. That's pretty neat. That kind of happened to us at an investigation. Our last one, we kept getting the word bishop kept coming through. And at first we initially thought, religious type bishop, because there was a church right behind the building. And after that session was over, we went down and asked the guy that was there, was there any bishops? Because it was it's a Masonic lodge is where we were at. And he was like, no, there's never been any bishops as members. I was like, okay, well, that doesn't add up then. So then when we did our next session, we got a name. The bishop kept coming through, but then we finally got a first name. It was William. And so while they were still asking questions, they started Googling, and they found a list of Confederate soldiers, and there was a William Bishop on there.
Wow.
And it was like, okay, well, maybe this is who has been talking to us. And it's just really cool when you get names like that. Then you can go back and look and say, okay, maybe this was who was coming through. So that's pretty neat that you guys experienced that too.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And so you say you like to go in completely blind.
Yes.
We kind of do the same thing at times. We don't do it every time, but there are times where I'll be like, okay, this is a cool place. Let me check this place out. We'll go there, and then they'll be like, do you want to know some of the history? And I'll be like, no. Or do you want to know some of the activity? Don't tell us anything. Because when you go in knowing the activity, you're kind of expecting that activity to happen. Right. And so if it doesn't happen, you're like, well, this was just a big ass disappointment. This was, right. But then when you experience it and they tell you later, oh, that's something that happens here a lot, that's something really cool. And a lot of people, I don't think, do that. They like to do a lot of research beforehand, and which is fine. But at the same time, you already know what to expect. So And there's times where I won't research until after I've done reviewed everything.
Mhm.
So and to see kind of what adds up and what doesn't. So I think that's an awesome approach in my opinion. So
Yeah.
Well, and
Yeah,
that's
we
exactly
definitely.
the same reason when we do our meditations, we all do it ahead of time. We don't want to put ideas into each other's head, so we wait until the end of the night to kind of reveal what our meditations. Yes.
Unless you're me.
So Erin always wants to tell us, she gets very excited, but Linnea plays the mother and doesn't let anybody say what they have until the end of the night because I don't want to plant the ideas in anybody's head. But it's always so cool at the end of the night when we're like, hey, would like, so Christy heard Timothy. Well, Linnea has Timothy written down. You know what I mean? So it's kind of cool
Right.
when other people are picking up stuff that you had written down
right.
and they don't know, you know.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. Um, so this is kind of a fun question. An investigator who actually oversees the old Scott County Jail, she sent out a survey to a bunch of investigators she knows, and she just was asking like a ton of questions to kind of get an idea of kind of how investigators are pre-investigation, and kind of like how their routine is, how kind of their spending and stuff is. One of her questions was, "What is like your go-to snacks before and during an investigation?"
Donuts.
That was like in well, so that's your lady's kind of go-to snack during an investigation, then, huh?
Always donuts. Always.
So do you have like a pre-investigation dinner that you normally do, or is it just kind of wherever you're feeling?
No, last week I stopped at Walmart and got one of the deli sandwiches and I ate it on the way.
It seems like every time we go out, we always, which it's a terrible idea just because of what it is, but we always seem to go towards Mexican food. It's just because like everywhere we go, they have like it's such a small town, so they have limited choices unless you want to drive another 30 or 40 minutes away. So it's always seemed to be Mexican, but like for us, well for me, like during the night I'll snack on like beef jerky and energy drinks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So but donuts, that's a different one. Kind of
Donuts, Coca-Cola, waters.
you go. All right. So I know you guys say you don't really do the pay to play places, but there's got to be a top for each one of you that I've got to go to this place at some point. So to each one of you guys, what's like your top place for that?
Mine, I have two. I want to go to the St. Augustine Lighthouse and the Winchester Mystery House.
Those are two of my they're on my bucket list too.
Mine, I want to go to Trans-Allegheny.
That's my top one.
Yes, and Waverly Hills.
Yeah.
Waverly Hills is amazing.
Yeah, I can't wait to get there.
I've been 3 times, and I experienced different stuff each time I've been, and it's just and it's so massive. Oh my gosh! Whenever you get to go, and I hope you get to experience that. I would recommend going on your own, just like as a team and some more friends, so you can have the whole building to yourself. The public ones are fine because it's so big and they're so spread out, but there's still that chance of contamination. So when you decide say that you want to go, gather up a few more of your friends and book that place just for you guys. That way you know for a fact you're capturing some good stuff. Because I don't think you'll leave disappointed. Even if you don't capture anything at all, just the building itself and the history is worth the price of admission.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So,
yeah. Trans-Allegheny. For sure. I've got to go there. I watch everybody on TV. They get to go. I'm like, I gotta go. I gotta go there. So that's I know. Well, shoot, most of the places we go to have a lot of stairs. Don't keep us in shape. You know?
Right.
There you go. That's about it. Yep, that's my favorite.
All right.
Trans-Allegheny.
Yes.
But and I know it can never be realistic outside of reach. I would love.
What did you say? I didn't hear you.
Did you say Alcatraz?
Yes.
Oh, that'd be amazing too. That would be so intense.
I don't know that my little heart could take it.
So, Linnea, what about you?
Well, I'm a horror movie junkie.
Me too.
So
Me
for my
too.
birthday this year, I'd actually really like to go to the Stanley Hotel, and I would love to spend a night or two in the Amityville house too.
Right. And what about the Conjuring house?
Um, I
Yeah.
they
I'm
shut me
actually,
down. No.
me and my wife are actually right in the middle of a documentary about, and it's the stuff they've captured there in this documentary has been pretty insane so far.
Yeah.
So, and of course, the movies hypes it up a little bit, and they have to change stuff around, but I think it'd be intense.
Yeah,
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's definitely a little darker
yeah,
than what we're prepared to
right.
get
So,
into.
overall, what's the goal for Ghost of the Coast Paranormal? What's your ultimate goal behind this whole thing?
So, what'd you say?
give the 5-year plan, Aaron. 5-year plan.
5-year plan. Ultimately, have our own docu-series. Whether it be a YouTube series or on, Netflix. Well, trying to kind of stay away from Travel Channel at this point because there's some bad stuff.
A lot of drama going on with them right now.
But ultimately, I would love for us to have some sort of docu-series. I think we're hilarious.
Yeah, I think we are too.
I'm just a little biased, but no, I would love to get some sort of like Paracon going here in Horry County. So here in Myrtle Beach, have some sort of Paracon because
Right.
We have local teams here, but none of them are quite as active as we are. And if any, I mean, really, yeah. And so, and I know the teams are here, and so to get some sort of Paracon going would be an ultimate. Paracon and TV, those are the ultimate goals. And a boo bus. Those are our ultimate goals. And I would like to get, we were just talking about this tonight, actually, before coming on here. I would like to create some sort of partnership with the city of Conway. The city of Conway changes its name to Halloween, South Carolina every year.
Mm-hmm.
Through the month of October. And I'd like to create a partnership with the city in doing some sort of walking investigation.
Okay.
Because it is such a old and historic town. There's a lot of locations that would be fantastic for some sort of walking investigation tour.
Right. Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
They have invited us in this Halloween to participate in some things, but we'd love to make it exclusively us annually.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't know until you try.
That's right.
So, and y'all being in South Carolina, I'm surprised nobody mentioned this, but the old Charleston jail.
Yeah.
That's closed right now. Yeah, it's closed. They're not going to be doing the tours anymore. They're making them into like office building. I would think, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
no.
I've talked to the gentleman that used to do the tours there. I cannot believe they are going to make it offices. I'm like, do you think any of you would want to lease an office? I don't think so.
I know I'd reached out to them at one point and when they were still doing it, and they were one of the most expensive places that I've contacted.
Yeah.
And for like not very much time.
Right.
And I'm like, man, I love to do it, but for that price and that amount of time, it's not worth it. Because it'd be like a 10-hour drive, and it wouldn't be worth it.
Yeah, I'd like to go to the Yorktown, but the same company that runs the jail runs the Yorktown. All the tours in Charleston. So it's very they are a little on the pricey side.
So are they tearing the jail down or just converting the jail into an office
Just
building?
Converting it into.
That's such a bummer.
Maybe they'll call it.
Right. Right. So if people want to follow along with you guys and follow your journey, where can people find you guys online?
Yeah, so we're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and YouTube.
All right. All right. Well, everybody, I want to thank Ghost of the Coast Paranormal. Did I just say that right? Yes,
Yes.
Ghost of the Coast Paranormal. For joining the show. Thank each one of you ladies, and everybody go check these ladies out. They seem like they really got it going on, and they're super active, out every weekend, which a lot of teams don't do. They only go out maybe once every couple of months. So follow along, check these ladies out, and if you're in the area, hit them up. Maybe they'll be willing to collab with some people.
Well, and if
Yeah,
you want to do
definitely.
a ship with us in Wilmington, we'd love that too.
What's
Yeah,
that?
If you want to join us for the Wilmington.
the battleship.
Oh yeah, one of my teammates. He actually lives in North Carolina, and he tossed that out there. He was like, "Man, we should do the battleship here." And I was like, "Well, man, you name a time and place and let us know, and we'll get it worked out." Because I've talked to a couple of people that's done it, and they said it's amazing.
Oh
That'd be a
yeah.
fun collab.
So it's one of those that's definitely on the bucket list. So
Yeah,
All right.
for sure. Well,
All right.
thank you for having us.
thank you all for coming on. So again, Ghost of the Coast Paranormal. Everybody go check them out, and we will catch everybody next time.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead. I'll have a good one.